Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm here with my friend Qixin, who is a true blue Singaporean, and the reason for that is because today we're going to be discussing whether Singapore really is the happiest place in Asia, the happiest country in Asia. The UN's happiness report has just placed Singapore at number 25 in the world, 25th most happy nation in the world, and the highest in Asia. Now, for me, having grown up elsewhere after being born here, I've come back and I feel that this is true for me. But I'm a very positive person, and I love Singapore, and every corner I take in Singapore makes me happy. Tonight we just came back from having dinner together, and Qixin was saying, "Oh, it's really muggy tonight." I was like, "Yeah, this is like this is the Singapore I love. We feel so good." So it's easy for me to think that, but what I've read on social media and some other like online reports, Singaporeans are complaining, saying, "No, this isn't true. Singapore is not the happiest place." But I wonder whether it's just the grumpy people who are taking to the internet. Everyone else, like me, is happy enough just to hang out and just be happy in Singapore. What do you think?
I'm pretty happy.
Do you think it's plausible? The happiest nation in Asia?
I think it's possible. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how the UN went about discussing this with people.
Right.
But a lot of people, I guess, like I think about Singapore, people do like to complain a lot.
That's true.
And so, do you think this level of complaint makes people unhappy, or do they just like to complain to pass the time?
I think we're just wired in a way to identify like gaps. Right. So like if we're, let's say, 75% happy, then we'll just think about the 25% of why we're not so happy.
Okay.
Right.
So I wonder whether there's an element of indifference as well. If people go, "Are you happy, Singaporean?" They might say,
I'm okay.
"Yeah, I'm okay." Exactly right. I'm okay. And so there's an indifference which may come across in a survey as really happy, because they go, "Oh, you're okay? Are you happy? I'm okay." Okay, that's a yes.
Oh, it's like a 3 out of 5, you know, like.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Or whether, or would Singaporeans say they're not happy?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. If they're not satisfied with where they are in life.
Okay.
Right.
Why would you say? Okay, so let's take this survey. I mean, it's UN, so they've obviously put money into it.
Yeah.
They're obviously publishing it, and they as an organisation they carry weight.
Yep.
Gravitas.
For sure.
And so by putting it out there, they must have done some serious research. What would you say it is that makes Singaporeans happy?
As in safety. That's one.
Yeah,
like,
very true.
Like you could just walk out 2 a.m. at night, and you'll be pretty safe.
Yeah.
Right. Like public transport is pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
I would think probably good enough for me to not have to fret about getting a car. You know, like.
Yeah. Today I was on my way back from like the Novena area.
Yep.
And the train was like delayed by about a minute.
Yeah.
Because the train in front hadn't moved yet.
Right.
So I was waiting at Bradell before I went to Bishan.
Yep.
And that like very rarely happens here. In the UK, I would say I could be waiting 6, 7, 8 minutes for a train every other day.
Same.
And that's normal.
When I studied in Australia, it's the same, right? Like buses come every 15 minutes, trains come every 10 minutes, right? And then, but the thing is, if you didn't study in Australia, or if you haven't been to the UK, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You would just think that, oh, like it used to be 3 minutes, like now it's 4, and so it's slower.
Okay.
So that's something that.
Or they'd say, I've never had to wait for a train before, and today it was delayed by a minute. It was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Good complaint about that.
Yeah.
Even though they don't realise.
Yeah.
What it's really like. Okay. So Singaporeans, I guess, like there's a reason why there's certain things that are coming to mind now. Most expensive city in the world, up there with New York. That was last year, or maybe even earlier this year. Everything, like you said, works the way things are supposed to work, on time.
Yep.
Is clean.
Yep.
Is safe.
Yep.
I mean, with it being the most expensive in the world, so let me go back to that. It probably means that people are earning well enough to be able to afford the most expensive country in the world. What do you think?
Yeah, all that oh, this is gonna be touche, but the government is doing well enough. Yeah.
To do what?
To support like the people that need supporting.
Yeah.
But it's a huge generalization.
Of course.
But like
I mean, those of you who've watched other videos on this channel, there's one of them about homelessness in Singapore.
Yep.
So, and there was a gap there. So, and that was, government has things in place to help those people, but the people who are in the system trying to arrange things on behalf of the government sometimes get it wrong.
And I think comparatively speaking, like because it's a survey that compares different countries.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So like comparatively speaking, like if you compare what our government is doing versus like what other governments are doing, I reckon we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Like definitely stuff that we can work on, but
yeah, of course.
We're doing pretty well.
It's not a utopia.
Yes, 100% not a utopia, but I think
but things are going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, I'm making some assumptions with it being the UN, they would have gone for a wide range of demographics.
Yep.
Young people who currently are struggling with house prices, waiting time on BTOs.
Yep.
Why would they say they were happy here in Singapore? I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons I have, but I want to know from you.
Okay, so I would think that like those people that would say that they are happy are people who have the energy, for like a better word, the energy to like make decisions to pursue like happiness.
Okay.
Right. So it's all about like I think in the education system we are taught to like just follow like by the book.
Yeah.
Right. And if you follow by the book, like there are certain parts where the book doesn't really satisfy you because like there's something else that you want to do. But so, and if people just simply follow by the book all the way, like even during working life and like all the way through, then there'll be things that they're about life that they won't be too satisfied with.
Okay, sure.
But so I reckon that people who don't do that, people who are willing to pursue like stuff that
they want.
Yeah, right. Like whether it be like a lifestyle or like hobbies that they have interest in, or community like friends, right? If they're willing to like step into it and like say, oh, for example, like I enjoy cycling, so I find like a cycling group.
Yeah.
Right. I will be happy the moment I find a cycling group.
Right.
Right. But if I don't find a cycling group, like if I don't take the initiative to find a cycling group, then I won't be that happy, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about that, I'm thinking a little bit about Singapore Kiasuism and that desperate need to keep up with everybody else. Do you think that Kiasuism mindset forces Singaporeans into actually doing what makes them happy?
Yeah. Especially if you can't think outside of that way of thinking.
If you can't think outside of Kiasuism, it's all about getting what you want or doing the thing that your heart's set on.
If you can't, can you say that again?
You feel like if a Singaporean cannot operate outside of Kiasuism,
okay, yeah.
so meaning they have to keep up, they have to make sure they are subscribing to the lifestyle that they want. Does that mean because of Kiasuism they are forcing themselves into it, right? So they are doing what they want to do.
Yep.
So without Kiasuism, people might just become complacent, satisfied. Okay, that's it.
Without Kiasuism.
So I'm suggesting Kiasuism is the driving force for success and happiness in Singapore.
No, I think it's the other way around.
Oh, okay. So you think Kiasuism is actually causing people to be less happy and less positive?
Yeah, because they're pursuing things that like society
just for the sake of keeping up, not what they really want.
Society tells you that you need to have this amount of money to survive, and then like you pursue that, and then because of that you forsake certain other things.
Right.
And you know.
But then with Singapore being the happiest nation in Asia, what's that? So if Kiasuism isn't if Kiasuism is not contributing to that,
Right.
what is? So I was wondering whether the
So you're trying to find
Kiasuism,
out why we're happy.
why we're the happiest.
Okay.
So, like, I know, but I've got a very different context.
Yep.
Having grown up somewhere else, having longed after coming back home.
Yep.
Now I'm home. Like, you could slap me with a fish,
Yep.
and I'll still think this is the best place ever.
Yep.
I don't know why I thought that.
Yep.
But so what I'm wondering is, what about everybody else who hasn't had the context of being away and now desperate, and then desperate to come back and then finally being here? What about everybody who hasn't had the chance to kind of have that process? What makes them happy here in Singapore? Is it so? Back to what we were talking about with Kiasuism. I wondered whether, because of Kiasuism is something that drives us to keep up appearances, essentially. But does that mean, because we've kept it up, we're happy with what we got?
I'm not too sure.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
I actually, like you said, I wonder whether Kiasuism does the opposite of that.
Right.
But I do wonder whether Kiasuism is a driving force for success in Singapore.
So maybe we can think of it this way, right? So like what Kiasuism does is like it's a pretty like it's obviously not like the be all end all, right? But it's a pretty good way of living.
Yeah.
In terms of like, because essentially you talk about benchmarks, right?
Right.
Like if you hit a certain amount of salary and then like you
Well, you've had X amount of promotions in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and then you get a pretty good quality of life. And so assumptions again, but I would feel that like when, imagine that the UN is just going around surveying people, right?
Yeah.
Maybe what's happening is that when they survey, people actually stop and think. And then when they consider
where they're at.
Yeah, especially if there's certain definitive metrics that.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know, just making stuff up now.
Yeah.
But like if let's say, is Singapore clean? And then you circle 4.
Yeah.
Right, and then.
Or probably 5.
Yeah, or probably 5, right? And
yeah.
this is nothing about like whether clean makes you happy, but it's just or is Singapore safe? And then you say like 4.
Yeah.
Like do you feel safe in Singapore? 5.
And then at the end, they're asking you,
and then the
are you
score
happy?
comes up.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I've just thought about all
Yeah,
these different things.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think maybe sometimes we just need to stop and think.
Yeah.
And consider, right? Like what we've got.
Yeah.
It's like the 75 that we have instead of the 25 that we don't.
Sure. I had a really interesting conversation with a taxi driver yesterday. It started off because, like, as a family, we very rarely take taxis. And so what happens when we get into the taxi is that the kids fight in the back about where they want to sit. And it's not even like anywhere decent. It's like Millie always sits in the middle.
Yep.
It's one side or the other side.
Yep.
It's the same. They
Yep.
just
You got
like
dolls.
they just like to quarrel about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I then said to the uncle, sorry uncle, we rarely take taxis, so they like to fight when we get in one. And he was really cool. He was like, chill, no, don't worry. But we got then talking about Singapore being very affordable for families, and I explained the fact that we don't get the taxi because we always take public transport to get places. And we talked about the fact that Singapore, even though it's dubbed or is the most expensive city in the world, I mean that's the whole world, there are actually different entry points for you to be able to thrive at different costs of living.
Right.
So for me, we as a family do not subscribe to a typically expat life, or should I say a stereotypically expat life. We don't subscribe to all the bars and that sort of going out sort of thing. We don't drive, and we don't really take taxis. We don't eat at restaurants. It's usually hawker centres, food courts. And so for us, like, Singapore is super accessible. It doesn't.
Affordable.
It's super affordable, and we're able to save, which gives us a security for the future. And so that definitely contributes to our happiness. Is that something that is nationwide? I know that it's something that we feel very fortunate because of our situation that we were in the UK was not like that. So coming in, it's different.
Right.
So my context might be different. But
Right.
do you think people in Singapore really appreciate how accessible things are to them?
Really appreciate.
Like, is it something that could contribute in the context of this UN survey? Is this something that contribute to the happiness of Singaporeans? The accessibility of
Yep.
food, transport.
So there's a Chinese saying that's like 身在福中不知福. So basically it means that like you're in blessing, like you're living within blessing, but because you've been living in there for so long that you have no idea what like blessing feels normal to you.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah. So I think probably that's the situation for like a lot of people.
Okay, so a lot of people would see life as just normal. They don't see that as a particularly wonderful thing.
I mean, or like if you grow up with $3 chicken rice and then suddenly it becomes 5.
Right.
That's the moment you think, oh, like.
Right. Whereas the context could be from not being able to access. Like for us, we would only go out to eat outside of our home twice a year, maybe 3 times a year in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy for some people. Like today, we recorded an episode at Hawker Centre at lunchtime.
Yep.
And then we went out for dinner to the food court. So we already pretty much covered our annual going out in one day.
Yeah.
So it's that context is very different to that $3 to $5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't contribute to happiness of the nation then. That mindset.
Contribute. Yeah, because it's back to because like what are you comparing? Maybe that's the thing we need to think about, right? Like what are you comparing it with? If you're comparing it to like the past, like your situation, then
it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, so maybe those areas, like I see what you're saying, maybe those areas are not necessarily contributing to Singapore's overall happiness.
Which areas?
The accessibility to food and transport.
No, I think they are.
You think it does?
Yeah.
Despite that Chinese saying that you talked about.
So it's like the awareness of it comes when you do the survey.
Okay. Okay. So being asked to consider it in the survey changes the mindset from the everyday of complaining to actually
at least that's my assumption, or like my train of thought. Like I'm thinking that like maybe you're in the peak hour train and you just like bitter and then like like everywhere that's crowded and stuff like that, but like you travel overseas and then like you miss a train, it's 1 hour later and it's like
and then being asked to fill in a survey about it, you realise because you have a moment to think about it. So we need to do more surveys, Singapore. So we can become more positive and more grateful.
No, we just need to reflect more. We just need to
more
reflect
reflective.
more. We just need to reflect more.
Okay, I've wrote a couple of extra things else down here. The only other thing that I put down on here was the negative press. Does it highlight the truth of how Singapore's residents feel? I think we've talked a bit about that. Like it does feel like day-to-day Singaporeans will complain a little bit more, but when given an opportunity to reflect, they'll see that they've got it pretty good.
What do you mean by negative press though? Like is that the negative response that comes from the result of the survey?
It might be because of my own interests. So like because I'm naturally very positive, I want to understand the other side to living in Singapore.
Right.
And so I follow various Instagram pages or the news. I mean, news tends to report bad press generally. Yeah, because it sells. Yeah, and so I guess all of that, when you read that, it may not feel consistent with this being the happiest nation in Asia.
Right.
As a result. But yeah, I guess that's what I meant by negative press. I mean, honestly, one of the things that I used to love about coming to Singapore for holidays, before I felt that draw to come back home, was that people here are way happier than in the UK. People would smile at you, people are grateful. You go to a hawker stall or go to the markets to buy food, and you wish the uncle or auntie and you say good morning. They're always super friendly back. You don't really get that grumpy uncle or grumpy auntie who just wants to complain at you all day, who thinks you're a nuisance. And as a result of that, I always used to feel that this was a happier place. I do feel like COVID and the mask wearing situation fractured society a little bit. It meant that we were in our own little silos, and we didn't want to strike up a conversation with someone on the MRT in case micro droplets or whatever it was going to get sick. So I think that made things trickier, but I definitely felt that the happiness or the general friendliness of Singapore was much more coming here. I think the kampong spirit is still alive. Again, my lens is a different lens I'm coming into. Whereas I know my parents' generation would probably feel like the kampong spirit is dead. I think it's very much alive, and just manifests in a slightly different way. So yeah, I'm interested. I think we're going to wrap up the conversation, but for you guys who are watching this, please comment. What do you think? Is Singapore the happiest place for you? I mean, I'm comparing it. I've been to a few other Asian countries recently, and they're all comparable. I have to say, when I was in Siem Reap in Cambodia, the people there smiled with a different level of depth. I felt there was a real joy in every smile. But the living situation there, it's hard to compare the lives, to be honest, from there to here. But the living situation there isn't as straightforward, isn't as easily accessible food and whatnot. So I can see the poverty in those situations causing the happiness levels to dip. So yeah, I'm very, very interested. What makes Singapore happy? Is it true? Do you agree with the UN's survey? Do you think the results are true? Have they formulated because they've been paid off? It's very unlikely. Are you happy? Yeah, what are you happy about? Maybe take this opportunity to be grateful. Show some gratitude. Onto the comment section, fill it all up. That would be great. We will discuss something next time. Next time I think I'm going to chat about Kiasuism.
Nice. Love it.
Find out what we think about it. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.